Good morning. So we're going to talk about our market entry strategy and business model for the NSS-2 bridge device. Next slide. The presentation overview, we are going to discuss the following topics: pain management and opioid use disorder, an industry overview, the U.S. opioid epidemic, solutions to curb the epidemic, the NSS-2 bridge device, our market entry strategy, our business model and performance, as well as areas for improvement and recommendations for market entry. As far as our industry overview, there are three primary topics we're going to discuss and strategies to combat this issue, which include pharmaceuticals, adjuvant therapies, and pain treatment devices. Next slide. So the inherent qualities of opioids can easily contribute to misuse. These qualities include inducing feelings of euphoria and stress relief, as well as side effects such as tolerance and withdrawal. Even when taken as prescribed, patients may still become addicted, and not all patients take the medication, as we know, as directed. This has created a total economic burden of opioid misuse that totals $78.5 billion annually. Next slide.
So what are we doing to curb this epidemic? The overall U.S. opioid prescription rate steadily increased from 2006 to 2012, peaking to 81.3 prescriptions per 100 people in 2012, before declining due to state and federal lawsuits against manufacturers. President Trump's Safer Prescribing Plan aims to cut the opioid refill rate by 1/3 in 2021. And for the third straight year, the DEA Opioid Manufacturing Reduction Initiative requires a 10% decrease in Schedule II opioids as part of its overall strategy to reduce opioid abuse and overdoses. In addition, in 2018, the National Institutes of Health announced the HEAL initiative, which stands for Helping to End Addiction Long-Term, which provides funding for non-opioid pain management R&D. This includes working with pharmaceutical companies and academic research centers to discuss the safe, effective, and non-addictive strategies to manage chronic pain, new innovative medications and technologies to treat opioid use disorders, and improved overdose prevention and reversal agents to save lives and to support recovery. We selected the NSS-2 bridge device, which was created by Innovative Health Solutions in 2012. This device is a percutaneous nerve field stimulator which targets pain centers in the brain. It mounts directly behind the ear and sends gentle electrical impulses to branches of cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 10, and works to reduce pain sensors in the brain. It has been FDA cleared as an aid to reduce symptoms of opioid withdrawal. So the bridge development status, they're actually in a much better position than many other items available currently in phase 1 and 2. Nearly 70% of all drugs and devices are only as far as phase 2, where the bridge device has already obtained FDA approval for the treatment of clinical symptoms related to withdrawal. And currently it's undergoing NIH clinical trials for post-op pain management. And we selected this device because it has a high likelihood of streamlined approval for a growing list of clinical applications, given its risk profile and previous FDA approval.
NSS-2 Bridge's entry into the market involved 4 key factors. Innovative Health Solutions capitalized on the climate of the market. They had a strong physician advocate. They appealed to the stakeholders most in need, which were physicians, patients, and their families, which helped them create demand for the NSS-2 Bridge. Within the pain and addiction market, opioid abuse had been declared an epidemic. President Trump mandated a national call to action. There were limited alternatives to opioids within the pharmaceutical industry. Treating opioid addiction required detox and medication-assisted treatments, but many patients were struggling to get through the detoxification period and would relapse before ever receiving medication-assisted treatment. This created a climate for NSS-2 Bridge to not only receive FDA approval, but to become a real solution in addressing opioid abuse. Dr. Arturo Taka Jr. was a psychiatrist and addiction specialist in St. Louis that continued to struggle to get his patients through the detox period and into medication-assisted therapy. Through networking, he connected with the CEO of Innovative Health Solutions, Brian Carrico, explained his barrier, and was one of the first to test NSS-2 Bridge when it was available. Dr. Taka reported almost immediate results. He used the results from his own patients to generate media interest and conducted interviews about his success with NSS-2 Bridge with PBS, DrugRehab.com, and Alaska Dispatch News. From there, Dr. Taka continued to spread the word about the efficacy of NSS-2, despite the fact there had not been a clinical trial on its efficacy for opioid treatment. In addition to Dr. Taka's advocacy for the medical device, Innovative Health Solutions appeal to scientists and physicians by providing samples of the device for them to use, critique, and consider. One of the physicians that used the free samples was Dr. Adrian Miranda, who conducted a clinical trial on how NSS-2 bridge impacted general pain symptoms and found the device to be effective. From there, Dr. Taka and Dr. Miranda conducted a test of 73 patients over 5 states that were opioid abusers. Of those tested, 89% successfully transitioned to medication-assisted therapy with the use of NSS-2 bridge. Dr. Taka and Miranda then wrote about their findings and co-authored a peer review of the NSS-2 bridge in the American Journal of Drugs and Alcohol Abuse. Despite not having a formal clinical trial, this was another strategy to create information about the device to physicians. During the test Dr. Taka and Dr. Miranda conducted, they used positive patient reviews for stories with media outlets. Patients had video diaries that were posted to a YouTube page where viewers can watch firsthand testimonials of patients using the device, see the intake process, and learn why they're willing to try the NSS-2 bridge. In addition to the YouTube channel, there were also a private Facebook group called The Bridge, where Dr. Taka is able to interact directly with patients and their families and explain how they can get access to the NSS-2 for their own families. Each of these tactics generated additional consumer demand. Since NSS-2 bridge has been on the market, they have sold over 20,000 units.
We developed a business model canvas for NSS-2 bridge. The customer segments are basically broken down into 2 main areas. One is chronic pain and the other is those patients with substance abuse disorders. An example of chronic pain would be oncology patients. Our customer segments are also going to include those that would prescribe the device, like psychiatrists, primary care physicians, hospitals, and practices that treat chronic pain or substance abuse disorders. We also see a potential for orthopedic post-operative patients given their high need for pain medications. The overall value proposition of the NSS-2 bridge device is that it could significantly disrupt pain management and substance abuse disorder treatment paradigms. It's non-pharmaceutical in nature and has no addictive properties, which makes it ideal in value in post-operative pain control and in substitution for pain medications or supplementation. Also, it has FDA approval and can be used to treat opioid withdrawal symptoms, which gives it huge value in opioid substance abuse treatment. Our customer relationships would be, patient use would be established through referrals by treating physicians. There would also be customer relationships developed through distribution of the product to hospitals and substance abuse treatment centers. As discussed, those distribution channels would include those hospitals, substance abuse treatment centers, pain clinics, and physician offices. The revenue model could follow a few paths. One would be selling the product directly to physician offices, hospitals, treatment centers, who would then provide the device to patients. We could also sell directly to patients with prescriptions from referring physicians, similar to how CPAP machines are used for sleep disorders. We could lease the machines in either of the 2 previous models I mentioned, or commercially license the technology to larger device manufacturers. Our cost structures are primarily R&D, legal regulatory costs, clinical trial costs to continue to prove its efficacy, IT and technical support for the device, manufacturing costs, and sales costs. Our key partners are physicians who would refer this device to patients, clinics, substance abuse treatment centers, and hospitals that treat substance abuse. Key activities would be the further development and manufacturing of the NSS-2 bridge and device sales. And it would also be what the device is used for, which is pain treatment adjunct and treatment of opioid substance abuse. Our key resources would be relationships with manufacturers, relationships to continue to perform clinical trials. We'd also need relationships with clinics, substance abuse treatment centers, hospitals, and referring physicians, and we need sales and device reps.
Lastly, we have 3 areas for improvement, along with 3 recommendations for market entry. The first one is decreased access to the device given the cost. It costs about $600 or more out of pocket, which not everyone who's looking for treatment can afford. So insurance coverage would greatly expand this market. The second thing that we identified is increased device usage among consumers in jail or those facing jail time. For instance, there was a Utah sheriff who offered the bridge device to jail inmates who wanted to stop using opiates. This would mean we would have to more aggressively approach politicians and prisons to use the device. Lastly, research other indications for device usage. Innovative Health Solutions has the opportunity to partner with the NIH Common Fund program to pursue further research, since it's basically a venture capital space. The device requires further randomized control studies to demonstrate its efficacy and safely. Lastly, there is an additional opportunity to study its indication to help treat epilepsy. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.